Balayage, Blonde Life Balayage Lightener today, as well as our LumiShine Liquid Demis. And I'm going to kind of show you my little tricks that I've learned to keep blondes looking interesting without being the same old that we see every day. So I always say, like, you can't reinvent the wheel, but we can kind of try and make it look a little better. So we're going to be doing a balayage technique. I'm going to show you on a mannequin really quick how I pre-did our model today. I do have a model with us, but I took our mannequin from a really brassy yellow and made her a beautiful, cool beigey blonde with multidimensional tones, but using all levels 8 through 10. And so there's lots of dimension in here, but ones that you can't really see where piece by piece starts. So, okay, I'm gonna get started. All right, so I do have a big thunderstorm rolling in, so if something happens and you guys can't hear me, please let me know so I can speak up. But otherwise, for you that are just joining, my name is Nicole Wood, and I am a Joico platform artist. I've been with Joico for almost 10 years now. I've been a stylist and a color specialist for 23 years. Actually, June was my 23rd birthday, so yay. I own a salon north of Dallas in Plano, Texas called Blondie Salon. Obviously, I specialize in blondes, that's my thing, and we just love education. So I came on board with Joico when I was needing a little bit more excitement into my career, as well as feeling like I really just wanted to be educated. So I do have a love for educating others. Ooh, if y'all hear that thunder. I have a love for educating others, and I really love just bringing my techniques to other people. Not necessarily that you don't do great things behind the chair, but maybe I do something a little different you haven't tried before. Sound good? If you guys have any questions, please don't be afraid to type them into the comment section. We have somebody from Joico that should be helping us as well. But if I see comments, I will definitely try and answer them. So, but multitasking, you know, that's what we did, right? So again, here is our model, our finished mannequin. Like I was saying, is that we pre-lightened an already blonde. As you can see, she's kind of golden. We pre-lightened her using our Blonde Life Balayage Lightener. Our Blonde Life Balayage Lightener is a clay lightener, but also has so many moisturizing properties in it. It doesn't dry out completely, so it continues to get lift. So you get more lift with our balayage lightener than, say, some others that I've tried in the past. So what I did is I went through with our Joico Blonde Life 40 volume, which has coconut oil in it. We do have developers that are LumiShine and Vero, but our Blonde Life lighteners are extra conditioning for your blonding techniques to keep that hair really protected and looking greater than virgin after you're done. So as you can see, she has been lightened, pre-lightened, re-lightened, and then glossed, and her hair is healthy and shiny. Isn't that pretty? So my thing with the blondes is that we can balayage all day long. We can highlight all day long. I can do foils in my sleep with my eyes closed. That being said, when a blonde comes into me and says they want something different, they don't want to go darker, they don't want to cut their hair, how do I make that normal blonding client feel like they got something completely new and that they're refreshed without feeling darker? So my trick is to go in and do multidimensional toning. I feel like toning is one of those things that we do at the shampoo bowl. We mix up one thing, we put it on root to end, we hope for 5 or 10 minutes that it corrects whatever we're needing, and we take them off and we blow dry them. So if your lifting process is multidimensional, you may get some different tones in there, but by adding multiple colors of toning, we now take a blonde and give them something that no one else can recreate. Another hairstylist can't come behind you and say, this is where they put their highlights, this is where they put their highlights. So I like to know that they just can't go anywhere and get what I did for them at my salon, so they have to keep coming to me. It's a trick, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with my balayage technique that I did, and I'm going to show you that really quick on half the mannequin head, and then we're going to get to our model, and Miss Ava's waiting over in the corner for us to finish her hair. She's our only pre-lightened, so she's probably hoping that I hurry up and get her blonding finished. So good? Everybody good? Awesome. Okay, so like I said, I am using, I'm going to try to stay in frame, sorry there. I am using our Blonde Life, I just have little packets here, little Blonde Life lightening powder, balayage lightening powder. You get 7 levels of lift with it, as well as our Blonde Life 40 volume. One thing I want to make sure to point out, because I noticed with some people online. I am one of those online stalkers. I'm always in the forums and I try to help out whenever I can. So just know that there is a difference. So we have Argiflex technology in our LumaShine as well as in our Blonde Life. We have Manola oil as well as coconut oil in those developers. Those are a different developer. Your Blonde Life developers are meant for blonding techniques. I use this on people that I'm worried about that the integrity of their hair might be compromised and I need some extra moisturizing. People like myself that it is straight lightener on my hair all day, every day. So I want to make sure I'm getting as much protection as possible. So when I am doing my blonding techniques, I definitely make sure to use the Blonde Life developers, and those come in 5, 20, and 40. And so with our balayage lightener, I usually suggest between 30 and 40 volumes. So we're using 40 volume today. And what I've done, because I had my mannequin half done, I have just done from also the crown to the behind the ear. I kind of try to look to see where the hair falls, because as I'm balayaging, that's where I want to make sure I get my lightening done okay. All right, so I'm just going to take out the back. I'm going to clip my already side done away here. You guys good so far? Awesome. You're having a good summer? It's been wild this summer. I feel like with graduations and everything else happening, it's been kind of a crazy place in the salon this week, but we get by, right? So, okay. So I'm just mixing up. I like our balayage lightener, 2 parts lightener to 1 part developer. So this is 2 ounces of lightener with 4 ounces, 1 ounce, 2 ounces of developer to 1 ounce, 2 ounces of lightener. I said that backwards. 2 to 1, 2 parts lightener, 1 part developer. It's not a Monday, but it's a Tuesday. It's my Monday. So, okay. Now, when you're balayaging, you can do, of course, there's different techniques for everything, right? So you can use a balayage board, you can use the back of your hand. Just for time's sake today, I'm using the back of my hand. In the salon, it does depend on kind of how I feel that day or what technique I'm doing. Since this is somebody who is already blonde and I'm not doing a full balayage where I'm really doing a lot, I'm going to be just using the back of my hand so that we can move right along. Okay, so in the back of my balayage, I do like to work side to side typically. Obviously, this side has already been done, so I'm just pushing it out of the way. On someone who is a virgin balayage, I usually will go in at a diagonal if this is all brunette so that I can really see where I'm doing. Right now, what I'm doing is this is a technique for somebody who's already blonde. Some of your highlight clients, maybe it's an all over root touch up that's wanting something different. So I'm going to go in just horizontally here. And I'm going to take thicker sections. This one's probably about 2 inches wide. And we're just surface painting. All we're wanting to do is add some pops to the ends of her hair so that we can get some lightness through there so when we're toning. All right. Can y'all hear the thunder in my video? I'm sorry if you can. It's kind of crazy. It's Texas weather. All you got to do is get used to it and it will change. Okay. It's kind of nice though, because I was worried about the lighting and then it was overcast. So now it's nice. So, okay, dear. So whenever we're balayaging at the nape of the neck, client positioning is really important. And especially with the mannequins, because there's no shoulders, but you always want them tilted forward when you're working on the back. We want to make sure that we're able to keep the hair down, but also taut. If they're looking up, it buckles easy, and that's when we'll get those holidays in between. So you want to make sure that we have got the hair taut. I like to use my first 2 fingers and keep it, we call these zones A, B, and C. So I'm holding at the top of zone B, and we're going to take our balayage lightener here, and I'm just going to put in our peaks. I call them peaks, you can call them points, but I always like to look at it as like peaks and valleys, right? So obviously we're all hairdressers, so we're all visual, and so I like to see where do I want it lighter, where do I want it darker, and as we get to the top of my thumbs, I'm going to slowly move down my fingers, keeping the tension of the hair the same so that the hair doesn't spread too much on us. And at the nape of the neck, I'm always going to join my points a little lower because I want that depth in there. Now, granted, this is a blonde on blonde, so the depth is going to be subtle, but that's kind of what we want. We want a subtle, but also new look. If you're using the back of your hand, you're going to take your brush, even a board, put it in the back, use the back of your hand, and we're just painting on the surface. This is not something that we're trying to make the ends platinum blonde. We're not trying to make it look dip dyed, I guess, for a better word, right? We're just bringing in some lightness in there. I like to use my balayage film. Bring it here. Touch a little bit. Tuck it. If the client's hair is really long, I also like to use a backwards bib if you guys haven't used those before. That way they will make sure that it's wrapped around. I should stop making ice mist for her. Oh, yeah, I've been using Joico since the 80s too. And so I know there's a lot of products out there that I'm like, oh, but I promise Joico always replaces any product that they've taken down with something even better. So I've never been disappointed with the new products that Joico brings out. So those of you that are missing certain products, I promise there is something out there. All right. How many of you are brand new to Joico, have never used Joico before? Can you give me a thumbs up? Everybody's good. I'm glad. Love it. We have a clan here. All right, so again, we're moving up the head in horizontal partings, making sure that your lightener stays on just the tip of your brush. If it gets to the sides, that's where you can get lightener where you don't necessarily want it, right? So we want to make sure that it just stays on the tip of your brush. I always keep an extra towel with me because if it gets messy, I like to wipe it off, re-dip. You're just dipping barely the brush into the tip of the lightener. And you want to make sure that your hair is completely saturated where you want it to be lighter. If you do not see solid lightener on that hair, it's going to be splotchy. And what's going to happen is you're going to rinse it out and you're going to be like, ooh, where are all these specks and all these really things in your hair? And so we're going to make sure that it's really good and saturated as we're pre-lightening. So it's no fun to do all that work and then get it rinsed out and be like, oh, I don't see a difference, right? So we want to make sure we get all of that. And we're going to be using levels 8 through 10 on her toning. So we want to make sure that our hair is light enough to where the toners will actually, or demi-glosses, sorry, I have a habit of calling them toners, but we will be toning with them. But the Lumishine demi-gloss with all demi-permanent color, if you don't lift the level of the actual demi-permanent color, all you're going to be getting is that tonal value. You will not get depth or change of color. All of the demi-glosses are mixed with 5 volume developer. You're not getting any lift with that. So you want to make sure in your pre-lightening that you're lifting to the level that you need it to be. Most of the time, blonding issues come from you not lifting properly, taking it off too soon. Lightener can stay on the hair up to 60 minutes. Balayage lightener, I never take it off before 45 minutes unless it is somebody who is white blonde, but I also wouldn't be using 40 volume on somebody who is white blonde already. So you want to make sure that you're letting it process at least 45 minutes up to 60 minutes, and that way you can get the optimal lift. With the Blonde Life Balayage Lightener, we get 7 levels of lift, and it is recommended to use 30 or 40 volume developer. I am sure that most of you are doing quite a lot of balayage in your salons. We all have different little techniques, tips, and tricks. One thing I love to do is just like you guys are doing today. I watch a lot of videos and I try and pick up a little tips here and there wherever I can go. But trial and error is really your go-to. Make sure that if you're a little nervous about it, that you start finding people who will let you practice. There's nothing wrong. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Diana. There's nothing wrong with telling someone that I've learned a new technique. I'd like to try it. How are you? We all have clients, friends, family who will let us practice, right? Your coworkers. Those are always good ones. And my coworkers can tell you for sure that we are always practicing on each other, right? Hey, Courtney. I'm glad Courtney said she loved it because she was supposed to be my model today and she chickened out. So not everybody's always so daring, right? Okay, so as we get into the wider sections of the head, I'm gonna actually start adding in more peaks here because I want it a little lighter at the top, but we're still doing very minimal because we want depth in there. The hair is already blonde to a medium dark blonde, as you'll see on our model, but we do want some lightness towards the top. With this, if you can use your imagination, if she was really heavy highlighted, like you'll see on Ava, our model, then she had some regrowth up here. So we went through and we kind of blurred the regrowth a little bit, but added more peaks and valleys in there because I don't want her to feel like she still has regrowth. I want her to leave feeling like she got a brand new hairstyle, but in color and feeling refreshed. But I'm not necessarily trying to make her a Hollywood blonde. All right. So then as we come down to zone 3 or C, sorry, then we are going to start connecting them. And I try and make sure that that is really good and saturated because that's where we want it to be the lightest anyway. Okay. Using my balayage film. Balayage film is great because not only does it separate the sections from one another, but it also does not conduct heat. So it's not going to change the lifting or anything like that. We're just doing it simply to keep our sections separated. And as we get here to the top, this last section, I kind of leave out at right now until I've done the front portion because I like to connect the in front of the ear to the crown because this is where the hair naturally lays. So when I take these sections down, can you guys see okay? Let's see, I might move her up just a little bit. So when I connect the sections, it's really all about how the hair lays and where the color is going to fall. So I always say, like, you like to see where the color is going to live. So when we're looking at our model, we want to see how does she wear her hair, how does she part it, and where's the hair going to live once it's all down. Because I really don't love to see pictures where I'm like, okay, well, that's beautiful color, but what about when she moves her hair? What about when the wind blows? Like, what is that going to look like? So we really want to think about how the hair lives and what it's going to look like in its natural setting. All right. Also, Amy Jo asked, what am I using? I'm using the Blonde Life Balayage Lightener with our Blonde Life 40 volume developer. And so we have mixed it up. It is specific for balayaging. And so it's a clay lightener that's going to help you be able to keep that moisture, but also have a clay property in there as you're balayaging. So you can use it freehand. You don't have to use balayage lightener if you don't want to, but no foils. And we don't ever use heat with any of our lighteners. Joico has several different lighteners. We have a cream, Blonde Life cream, a Vero cream, our Blonde Life lightener, which is 9 levels of lift, our Vero Light lightener, which is up to 8 levels of lift, and our Balayage lightener. And I will say I use all of them for different reasons at different times in the salon. So if you're one of those that you're just grabbing the same thing every single time for every single client, then let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to explain when I use one versus the other. If you're doing on-scalp blonding though, like a double process blonde, I highly suggest that you look at our cream lighteners. The Blonde Life lightener is going to be for your darker clients, ones that you're trying to lift from like a level 5 and below up. And your Vero Light's going to be great for very fine, already processed, lighter hair, level 6 and higher. So if you're using anything like that, I would definitely suggest that you look. Amy Jo, is that you using one lightener or that you using Blonde Life on everyone? So we have different ones, different tools in our tool bag, right? So you need to know what the different tools are so that you know when to use them. I do notice a lot of in our forums and things, people will say things are talking, it's like, oh, you just don't have the right tools in your toolbox to use it. So with the Lumishine and Vero, between the two of them and our Blonde Life lines, we have enough products to handle any situation. I've been doing hair about 23 years. For those of you that have just joined, sorry, I'll reintroduce myself really quick. My name is Nicole Wood. I am a Joico platform artist. I've been with Joico for about 10 years. I've been an educator for Joico and other lines, but I've been a hairstylist for 23 years. I'm a third generation, ninth one in the family, so I was literally almost born in the hair salon. So I've been doing this a long time, and it really is a passion of mine to help just put the knowledge forward, pay it forward, I guess. I come from a line of educators who really felt like it was our duty to make sure that we're all kind of doing our best with every single client. I think that especially right now, I don't know how many of you listen to a lot of business seminars and things, but your perceived value is what's going to help you during the next few years in our economy and our world. So we want to make sure that we are elevating our services by doing things like this, like coming to the classes and learning new techniques. But tell your clients that you're learning new techniques. They actually really like it whenever they know that you're upping your game and that you've got something new for them. Really quick, so what I've done is I've just taken one diagonal parting from her center part all the way to her ear. Y'all can see. I feel like Guns N' Roses singing with his microphone there. So, but this is a very wide section, so I'm actually going to half it for me. Some of you, if you have larger hands, you might be able to do bigger sections. I notice for me, if I try to do too much, it's messy and I don't get the right saturation that I need. So, Amy, I hear you use the same things always because it makes you nervous to try new ones. I agree. I get that. I hear that absolutely. I'm like that with skincare. I'm afraid to try anything new sometimes because I'm like, oh, what if it makes me like, break out or have a reaction? So I would highly suggest, if you're like I was before I started educating, I can't tell you the last time I worked on a mannequin. Grab a mannequin, order one from wherever, and start testing your new products out on a mannequin so that you can kind of see what it does before you see what it does. All right, so we're just moving in a diagonal here. I'm gonna just, like I said, this is an already blonded mannequin. So we are just giving her some pops, especially around her face. We're gonna make that nice and heavy. So I've got her here. And this is a part too where if the client's positioning is not flat for you, move them. So I actually just say, if you'll just tilt your head this way for me, that way I have a flat surface to move this way. I kind of move them around, right? So as we know, some clients are good at following directions and some aren't. So you may have to kind of reiterate. But if you feel yourself struggling to get in the right body position or to do the technique properly, double check their body positioning as well as yours. So when I get here to the front, again, I'm holding at the top of zone 2, and I'm going to start my points. I want it right on the face. I want her to have almost like a money piece, but we're not going to be doing foils and make it too, I don't want it too thick. I just want it predominant. So, and I am connecting in here because I don't mind that this is a little bit brighter around her face. As we get to the top of the thumb, we are moving down. Does anybody have any questions? Can everybody understand what we're doing? If you guys are just joining us, we are doing a blonding technique with Joico's Balayage Lightener. The Balayage Lightener, Blonde Life Balayage Lightener, you get 7 levels of lift while also being able to use it as a clay. We are using it with balayage film. I feel like it just keeps it neater, as well as my clients can get up and walk around. And sometimes it is about client comfort, right? So we're really making sure that this is getting saturated in here because we want it to really pop around her face. Also, whenever you are blending, now she would already be highlighted through here. I'm showing you exactly what I did on our model so that you can see. And then we're going to place it away and put some fill around there. And we're going to move up the head, the crown of the head, the same way. So I'm going to go in diagonal sections all the way up. Does that make sense? What about the hairline? So since she's already blonde, you can, if you were going to do the hairline, I usually will pull it back this way at the very bottom and start with this one going downwards. And then this way I'm just doing this hairline because I want some of that root there. So I'm not necessarily redoing her hairline. This is going to be a really great way to be able to give your college students, things like that that don't get to come in every 6 weeks, a really good way of having a refreshed look. Anna Marie said, what about the hairline? How do you do the other side? What do you mean, Anna Marie? We have two sides here. And so when we come back here, we do the same thing, same side. So we're going to do what we do. It's like algebra. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So exactly the same way. So we're going to come up in a diagonal this way. And the reason I'm doing this one is because it's a lighter form. When we work on diagonals, then it's softer. And it's going to lay exactly how the hair lays. Also, visually for me, I can kind of see where I want it closer to the root, where I'm okay with it being more grown out looking because it's lower on the head. So for me, it might be just a way that I keep it all connected and clear and concise. Does that answer your question? The other side of the section that you're working from. And the other side of the section I'm working from. I'm not sure. I guess I don't know what you mean. So I'm working on the right-hand side of the section. We've parted down the middle. This side's already been done. So I am literally just going up to the crown of the head this way. We're just going in a diagonal. So I'm connecting the crown and the back together this way. Okay. Awesome. Okay. We're going to go here. Again, I'm going to half this because the section's a little wide for me. Holding at the top of zone 2. Your balayage, your Blonde Life Balayage Lightener, one thing I love about it is that it's not too dried out to where I feel like I can't work with it, but also it dries in a way that keeps it in place. So I don't have to worry about it getting on the hair next to it, underneath it, even though I do some of the different underneath sides as we're blending. So that's when the film helps me, is because I know that I don't have to worry about the two sectionings getting messed up. Okay. All right, we're going to finish this little one and then we'll get to the fun stuff with the blonding that I'm going to show you. We're going to be using Joico's new Demi Gloss. We have some new tonal families that came out. We've got a violet gold, a platinum violet, and a blue violet that I am so impressed with. I keep grabbing them every single time that I go to tone now because I want to make sure that I get these new colors out in the world because they are gorgeous. In fact, my model, when I asked her, I said, I'm teaching a class, would you like to get your blonde done? I said, but it's going to be different than what we normally do. She's normally a very platinum, just all over blonde highlight. And so when I showed her the mannequin, she was like, oh yes, I want to do that. So I was really excited because you always want people to like your work, right? And what we do. Okay, so when we get here to the front, like I said, sometimes you want them to tilt over. If you need them to tilt back, she was asking about the hairline. If this was the underneath section, I was doing the hairline, I might even bring it back this way, but what's going to happen with that is that we're not going to have anything in this section on the top. So that's why I kind of will go back, but work on the front, because then I'm holding it sort of back, diagonal, but taut, so that I can work on the top portion. And when the hair's down, it's what you're going to see. Obviously, if my client wears their hair up in a ponytail 90% of the time, we want to make sure that they've got some really good lightness around their face. Now, that being said, if it's a client that only comes in every 12 weeks, a balayage client like that, or somebody, I have a lot of my college kids are coming back right now and getting their hair done. You need to do it in a way that it's going to grow out well for them so that they don't look for 3 months like they need their hair done. So by giving them some live-in look in that balayage, you're going to help their regrowth process and they won't look crazy in between, right? Okay. So you're going to continue up ahead with this with the Balayage Lightener. Like I said, we process for 45 minutes to 60 minutes, depending on the level of lift you want. I would always do 45 minutes and then check it. And if you do check it by taking some off, then you need to make sure you reapply. I'm going to mess up your name. Is it Quisada? I have blonde, she said I have blonde hair and my roots are gray. Which shade use on my roots to make it blonde? That would all depend on your level of gray, like if you have any, I call any pepper in your gray, where we need to do, but I would definitely suggest that you use one of our lines for gray coverage. So one being either Lumishine's Youth Lock or our Vero Age Defy. So both of those are for hair that is at least 50% gray or more. If you use it on hair that is less than 50% gray, will it work? Yes, but it might look a little darker because it's going to be matted to cover that gray. It's double pigmented to cover that gray. When hair grays, it loses pigment, all the pigments out of the hair. So we double pigment it to make sure it covers completely. Also, whenever you're covering gray, while we're on this subject, make sure you let that process 45 minutes as well. So making sure that you do that. So whenever you go to touch up your gray and you want it blonde, I would use anything from a 7 to a 10, depending on the level of pepper in your hair that you've got. Does that make sense? Hope so. Okay, so now we're going to get to the fun blonding technique, right? So we are using, like I said, we're going to use, I'm going to move her. Thank you, ma'am. You've been a wonderful model today. We are going to be using our new demi glosses. So, hey, Julia, thank you. All right, we're going to be using all of our new demi glosses. So like I said, we've got them in violet gold, which to me is like a warm beigey tone. Now remember, all your swatches are always on 100% white hair. So whenever you're looking at toning, make sure you think about that so that you know exactly how it's going to come out, right? And then we have our platinum blondes that we're going to be using. And just for the fun, don't tell our model, we're also using blue violet. I'm joking. But so what we're going to be doing is we're mixing cools and warms together. Therefore, there's going to be a nice little buttery blonde. For me, I think about the copper tone baby. Like I want lots of different weedy tones in there that look natural. And like I said, that no one else can replicate without knowing my technique and what I did. So that's part of customer loyalty, right? Is give them something they think they can't get anywhere else. So, okay. All right, Miss Ava, you can walk up. You're fine. Let's see. We'll bring the stool over and we'll make sure. Let's see. She's petite. Let's see. Go ahead and sit down for me. Can you get on there? Okay, I got you. If we need to move it. Okay, so we're going to be working. We'll turn around. So Miss Ava, as you will see, we've already balayaged her. And so where we see that warmth in there is her pre-lightning. She's about a level 7 to going into a 6 towards the back. So what we're going to be doing is giving her coolness at her root and then alternating with some warm and cool tones throughout, okay? So we're going to be using, you ready? 4 different toners today. And we are, okay, so I have our base color. So Formula 1 is 1/3 7 BV, 1/3 9 BV, making an 8 BV, and 1/3 clear. The reason I'm doing clear is because it's at her root. Her root is already dark. I'm not necessarily wanting a full blue violet tone at her root. If it was white and we wanted some really cool tones in there, we could do that. But I'm more wanting to just kind of drag it down, but also counteract any warmth that we may have going on there. So what we're going to do, let's start right around here. Yeah. Miss Ava does have a lot of hair, so I know we only have about 30 minutes. So I'm going to work as quickly as possible. Will you lower that just a little bit for me? It's to your left. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So if you can see, I have taken out the part around her face. I always do this last because A, it's more porous. This is what gets the most heat, the most sun. It's touched whenever she washes her face. So it's going to grab color a lot quicker and also a little bit more dark than maybe we want it to be. So I've kept this out and we will do that very last. It also, like we said, I'm pretty visual. So for me, it also reminds me that this is going to be a little different than everything else because I want it to stay light and bright around her face. We're just going to get this out. By the way, this is Ava's debut as being a model. So this is my niece, Ava. and she gets roped into stuff like this because she loves me. Okay, so when I'm working with these sections, I usually work back to front, and also I do the two sides at the same time. Therefore, I make sure that my rhythm is the same. Let's see, I'm gonna be scoot just a little bit further just so we can, yep, there we go, perfect. So that way I can make sure that what I'm doing is on equal parts. That way I don't worry about like, ooh, I'm working on this quadrant. How did I do it over here? Especially when I'm working with a bunch of different colors, right? Because it can be very easy to get mixed up what you're doing, and then all of a sudden we have a problem, right? Okay, so first we're going to be doing our base color, which, like I said, Formula One, it's 7BV. We made it 8BV basically. 7BV, 9BV, and clear. And I did equal parts, so a third of each for the base color. And then we also have our Formula 2 is 1/2 9PV, so platinum violet, and half clear. Also, our third and fourth, just so you know ahead of time, we have the 10VV and the 10VG. So the VG is a violet gold, and then we also have our blue violet. So that violet gold to me is what I would consider to be like a natural beigey look, a very weedy color, but enough coolness in it that you're not adding more warmth and have to worry about that. That makes sense? Does anybody have any questions? If you do, please feel free to let me know. Okay, so we're coming in here. Oh, sorry. I'm going to have you turn this way. If you can see, turn that way there. I have done like a really big zigzag part between her crown and the back. What happens here is that I know that this hair is going to fall this way, but this hair lives over here. This keeps me, even though I'm doing color blocking, I don't want it to look like one color, one color, one color. I want it to be very blended, but the way we do it, it's almost like a blocking and a color melting together. But by adding some zigzags or diagonal partings in there, you soften the result of the hair. Everything should be very soft and free flowing, and it should look really natural. And so many people, it's awesome how people will say, oh, everybody thinks my hair's natural, and I have to let them know. Even this is a great technique for your redheads or your brunettes. Tone on tone is basically what we're doing with color blocking. Okay, Mama, this way. Okay, and look down for me. There you go. Okay, so I've got my zigzag partings on the side. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in at a diagonal. I work in about, I'd say, 1/4 to 1/2 inch sections so that I know that I can get the saturation that I need, but also that I'm moving quick enough. Now, one thing I would say is that with the Lumishine liquid demis, if you put them on wet hair, like at the shampoo bowl, they are not going to be as, they're not going to grab as quickly or as dark, right? So it's kind of like a sponge. Once your sponge is already full of water, it can't really soak up a ton more. So it's going to be more translucent. So you may not need to add the clear in there if that's what you're doing at the bowl. With her, we knew we had already done it. It was going to be a little bit before we got the toner on there. So having the clear in there is going to make sure that it doesn't get too dark or too violet, anything like that too fast, okay? All right, so we're working on a diagonal. What I like to do is go ahead and I do each section of each zone, let's say that way, zone A. I'm going to do both sides of my section first. What this does is also make sure that it's almost like my rhythm. I want my rhythm to be the same. I want to make sure whatever my hand stroke's doing is exactly the same on each side. So this, again, if you're just joining us, we made an 8 blue violet. We mixed a third 7PV, blue violet, 9 blue violet, and clear together with our Blonde Life Lumishine 5 volume developer. Zone 2, we are putting Formula 2 in, and that is 1/2 9 platinum violet, so the PV, and half clear. And I'm going to take zone 2, and we're melting the two together. Now, if you stop and start flat-handed, you're going to have lines, and it's going to be the color blocking that we're used to from like the 80s, right? We don't necessarily want that. I don't want her to look dip-dyed. This is supposed to look very natural. So I take my fingers as a scissor and I just smush the sections together to give a nice little blending. Okay, and then in zone 2 on each section, we've got formula 2. And then now what we're going to do with the ends is that we're going to start alternating our formula 3 and formula 4. Again, formula 3 is our 10 blue violet, and our formula 4 is a 10 violet gold. And so what you're going to see is as we move up, zone 1 and zone 2 are pretty much going to stay the same. Zone 3 and 4 are going to be alternating and changing. I learned this trick of mixing cools and warms together from a mentor of mine, and I thought she was crazy at first, but the more I do it, the more I realize how beautiful and natural that the hair is whenever it's dried and finished out. And it's a really beautiful way of giving your client something different. Now, don't get me wrong, like I said, I have a place called Blondie's. You say the word gold to any blonde and they almost start to freak out, right? So I don't necessarily use terms like that when speaking to my clients. I more or less will tell them that I want to add dimension and tones into their hair. You okay? Okay. Checking on our model here, making sure she's with us. All right. Okay, so again, going into the second section, diagonal from ear to ear. We're going in with formula 1, which is our blue violet, basically in a level 8. Now, because her hair is about a 7 to a 6 here, it's a little wet, so it looks a little darker, we're not going to be really getting depth from here. What we're going to be getting is the tonality of the blue violet. So we're cooling down. By doing diagonals here, also what's happening, right, is we're bringing this down a little further than it is here, adding in a natural shadow so that we're getting a really beautiful blend when you're toning. I do think one of the mistakes we make is being lazy with our tonings. So we get in there and like I said, we just mix up something really quick. We want one shot to fix it all. And that's great if you want your blonde or your color to be monodimensional. For me, I love dimension. I usually put in 3 different colors, 3 different tones, and usually 3 different levels. If I'm going to stay with the same levels, I'm definitely going to mix up tones. But as far as even a normal blonde, I'm going to do a violet, a beige, a gold, maybe a neutral, an ash. You know, we're going to mix them up and that will help. Okay, so on section 1, we used our blue violet. So this time we're going to use a violet gold. One thing I want you to realize too is that with our demi-glosses, you can use a bottle or a brush. And so I did it, again, we all have to make accommodations, right? I'm a little ADD, so I try and make sure that I remember. So my zone 1 and 2 are in bowls, and zone 3 are in bottles for me, so I don't mess that up. All right, so going forward, we're going to continue up the head in diagonal sections. And again, we are using our LumiShine Demi-Gloss mixed with 5 volume developer. These can stay on anywhere from 5 minutes to 35 minutes, depending on the level of deposit that you would like to get. So if it's something that you've never done on someone before, I highly suggest that you watch it, that you're not just sitting there and leaving it and walking away and going and watching a Facebook Live in the break room while your client processes. We've all been guilty, right? So again, zone 1, I'm doing about 2 to 2.5 inches of my 8 blue violet. Zone 2 is our 9 platinum violet with clear. And I'm alternating, so this one is our 10 blue violet towards her ends. What level did you lighten her hair to? So if you can see, her hair was already lightened in some areas to a level 10. The balayage that I did, I would say we were like a golden 9, maybe a golden 8 in some areas, Anna Marie. So we just did that this morning with her balayage lightener, and we used the balayage, the Blonde Life Balayage cream, or powder, I'm sorry, as well as 40 volume of the Blonde Life developer, and we left it on for 30 minutes. We also prepped her hair with the Defy Damage Pro Series 1. If you guys haven't used our Defy Damage, I highly suggest that you do. The Defy Damage is going to keep anything from causing more damage to the hair. It's going to put amino acids. It's going to make your hair strong. We say strong bonds for healthy blondes, strong blondes, you know? So with the blonding process, we just know, right? We always say being blonde's expensive and it's a lot of upkeep, but it's also our job to make sure that we are also taking care of the client's hair. So by using the Defy Damage, you're going to spray the Pro Series 1 on the hair prior to you coloring it. And then you're going to follow it up with step 2 from our Pro Series. That is the conditioning treatment. And once they take their home products together and they take care of it, believe me, they will notice that their hair is healthier. Can you lower it just a little bit for me, Mama? All right. Okay. Yep, you're good. Perfect. Okay, so we're still working up diagonals, alternating our formulas on zone 3 with our 2 level 10s. So if you can see here, she has some hair that's lightened lighter than others, and then she has her natural growth. So by doing this, it's going to actually blend all this in and make it very seamless looking. And that's the trick. We don't want stripy. We want very nice blended hair. Working left to right. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other. Do you guys have any other questions? Is this making sense? Have you guys worked a lot with mixing the tones like that, doing warms and cools together? It's a little scary, but once you do it and you see that it works, it's beautiful. Okay. This is also a really good way as our skin tone changes in the summertime. You know, some people tan, some people don't. Sometimes some colors might look really pretty on somebody and then their skin tone changes and everything looks kind of crazy, right? So we have to go with the flow, but this is a beautiful way of multi-dimension. Okay, so in the last section, we used our blue violet. So we are using our 10 platinum violet here, and we're almost done. That way I can show you how we do the front. And then if you guys want to, you can look on, I'll send Facebook the final pages, but if you want to follow me on Instagram, my Instagram handle is @BlondieNicole, and my Nicole is with a K. So if you follow me on Instagram, I will be posting some after pictures of Miss Ava, because obviously the mannequin's never as pretty as the real thing. Okay, turn this way for me. Okay, so we're working on this crown section here. This is still a little thick, so I'm going to half it. One thing I would say is that if you're going to do a multidimensional toning this way, you're going to want to do it at the chair. This is not something that you want to do at the bowl, okay? So this is something you really need to be able to see. I would take this as important and as much time and care as you would with the pre-lightening. Because if you don't do this part properly, the whole point of it's going to be missed and you're going to have done a lot of work and your client's not going to see the results from it. So you guys are still joining in. I'm excited. Again, for those of you who are coming in now, my name is Nicole Wood. I am a master guest artist for Joico. We are coming to you live using a blonde bonding. That's a hard word to say. When I titled this, I didn't think about that. A blonde blocking technique. We have pre-lightened the hair with the Balayage Lightener, the Blonde Life Balayage Lightener, which you get 7 levels of lift, and Joico's Blonde Life 40 volume developer. And now we are doing a toning of blondes that is going to give you a very seamless multi-dimensional toning effect. Okay, so now we are going back. This again is our 10 blonde violet. And don't get me wrong, you can intermix these, you can change them. You don't have to make any kind of, I mean, we're artists, right? You can do whatever you want. One thing I always try to do though is that I go from dark to light, obviously, 10, I'm using an 8, 9, and then I'm doing 10s at the bottom. Now, alternating your tones will give you a completely different look too. So don't think that you necessarily have to do that. If you did all level 10s, but in different tones, you're going to get that tonality that you want and not the darkness from it. So, okay. Last little section here, and then we will do the front. I'm glad the thunder died down. I was afraid I was going to have to yell. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer for you? Any problems you've been having with any of your toning or blonding? Feel free to ask. I will try and answer as much as I possibly can. Also, make sure your saturation, if you are working on wet hair, we all know at the bowl it's a little easier to get through there. If your hair is drier like this, it will soak up that color, and you want to make sure that you're working in sections that you can work with, but also that you're getting all of that toning all the way through there. Work it in there, because otherwise what happens is you'll end up with splotchiness. Okay, maybe turn towards me just here. All right, so we're going to move to the front section, and obviously this one's a lot faster. So, do you feel famous?
A little bit. All the 23 people.
All right, so we are going to keep this front section out while we work, and we are going to work in this little quadrant right here. Same exact theory, except for because we've zigzagged and because we've gone at diagonals, I'm actually going to come in more horizontally here because I'm already working in a V this way because of the sectioning. Your little curtain bangs want to get in my way there. All right, so again, we're using our level 8 blue violet that we've made with half 7 and half 9. I'm sorry, it's 1/3 7, 1/3 9, and 1/3 clear blue violet. I'm not going to root this out quite as much because this is what's around her face. So we're going to keep that light and bright. Anna Marie asked if the Lightener has a bonder. So Anna Marie, we actually have several things in our products that keep your hair strong and healthy. One, we pre-treated her hair with the Pro Series 1 of Defy Damage. And then with our Lightener and also our developers, there's things like coconut oil in it and manola oil and Bell Bonders. Plus, we have Argitect replacement technology. So our Argiplex technology actually puts all the amino acids back in your hair that you need, and it naturally gets depleted whenever you color. So therefore, we are making the hair stronger. Your LumaShine Demis have it in there, as well as your developers and your Lighteners. So we are always about healthy hair. If you guys know nothing about Joico, just know that we are the healthy hair company. And so everything we do or suggest is all for the health of the hair. So, all right. Again, working up in horizontal here. Also, by mixing up what I'm kind of the sectioning I'm doing, it keeps it from looking too stationary. We don't want to see, it's not a color melt where I want to see every single color be different in a different zone of the head. It is more of a melting and intermixing, if you will. And I guess I would say that's kind of my technique, and what makes my coloring a little bit more unique is that everything is really about being intermixed. Very livable, but also very natural, commercial, if you will. But that's what my clients want. So we're in Dallas. There's lots of people here who specialize in blonding in Dallas. And so you have to figure out a way to make yourself stand out differently than every other stylist out there. Okay, so in this section, we are still using our 3 different colors, alternating zone 3 with the different lighteners. And then as we come in here, turn your head right there for me. So as you can see, these are starting to overlap. So I will go ahead and start incorporating the front of her hair only for client comfort, because if I start doing all of this and then have to get here, I may miss something. So we're going to go ahead and start at her hairline here. Now with these, I'm actually going to keep this all the same and do the 8 blue violet, our 9 platinum violet, and then I'm going to keep the ends of her hair. I'm going to continue to use the blue violet because I want this really platinum and blonde and to be cool. I don't want it to be worn. Do you guys feel like this is something you might be able to use in your salon life? I always want to make sure that you have stuff that you can use at home. Doesn't do us any good to learn a bunch of stuff that we'll never use, right? That was one thing whenever I started doing hair that I would go to these hair shows and my clients would always say, "Oh, did you learn anything that you can use on me?" And I, I'm old, so that was the age of blue mohawks was the thing at hair shows. So it's a real thing that really happened. So, all right, guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue doing this up the hair, and then I will finish her other side as well. She's actually going to process. We were talking about earlier that if you do it on wet hair, it can be a little bit more translucent. Doing it more on dry hair, the way we're doing it here, it can grab. Not that it's going to go darker. So don't think of it as Lumishine Demi is not progressive in the way that an 8 is going to become a 6. It's just you're going to get more of that tonality, right? You can actually use the Lumishine Demis to blend gray. You can use them to always darken someone's hair with demi, right? We're not going to use permanent color unless you're covering gray. But we're going to let her sit. It can sit for up to 5 to 35 minutes, depending on what you're wanting. I'm going to let her sit about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. Her hair is curly. If you guys work with curly hair at all, you know that curly hair is more porous. Usually the frizzier the hair, the drier, the more moisture it needs. Hair is frizzy because of lack of moisture. So we want to make sure that we are thinking about all of those things as we are doing her hair. Sorry, I don't want you looking all crazy here. All right. And we're going to continue working up. Now we're in our last quadrant of her crown. Again, turn to the left for me. There you go. Again, we're looking at where this is falling and where this is laying and what colors do we want on top of each other. And if you've alternated and you've kept up with what you're doing, each one should kind of lay on each other, but be intermixable as well if you're alternating. Okay. And like I said, if you guys will come on to either the Joico will have the after, or I will definitely post one in just a little bit on my Instagram. And my Instagram is at Blondie Nicole. And I think Ashley actually put it in the chat for you guys so that you can easily follow me. You can be like my second and third followers on Instagram. All right, so we're alternating. I used all platinum violet toward intersections in the front, and we are going to be using the blue violet and the platinum violet again in zones 3 and 4, making sure that we're alternating each one of those, okay? Awesome. And Ashley, can you tell them where they can see the after? Am I right saying the Joico Facebook page or on my Instagram? Oh, thank you, Sherry. I appreciate all my follows on Instagram. Fun. I have to say, it's kind of interesting doing hair and reading comments at the same time and seeing yourself. It's kind of all those years of working in the mirror have prepared us for this, right? All right, guys. So here we go. We are at our last little section here. So we're going to let her process for 10 minutes. We will shampoo out. I will be using the Defy Damage aftercare shampoo and conditioner, as well as the Pro Series 2 for 5 minutes, which will build those bonds for her, keep her hair healthy and her color looking fresh. And then we'll get her styled out and I'll send you guys the after. Does that sound good? Awesome. Thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate it. Oh dear, I'm gonna let you turn around.